Welcome to the Hot Read here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by ML Rose Neighborhood Pub. 7 great locations all across the city, 8 coming to Murfreesboro soon. I am Braden Gall. That is James Foster, No Flags Film on Twitter, and of course, James Foster's YouTube page covering all things football. James, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon. Bye week next week, so we get a rest from this damn team. But hey,
We
man,
get a break from the team, is what you're saying.
yeah. I mean, having to watch, like, we still get to talk about them, but I would rather talk about them than watch them, honestly.
Get to talk about them. That's an interesting way of looking at it. So, look, we're gonna do some NFL draft stuff today on the show, as you and I are both kind of obsessed with college football, and I thought it would be a good point of the season to look at the midway, almost 2/3 of the way through the college season, but certainly midway through the NFL season, the bye week. Hey, let's take a look at your elite level prospects in this draft class. Let's look at some of the best players at each position, and where does that meet up with some of the Titans' potential needs at, let's say, receiver, edge, and corner, ideally. But we'll get into that. We'll talk quarterbacks as well. So we'll get into some of that stuff coming up a little bit later on today. However, I want to start with the trade deadline, how the Titans did overall, the value of Jeffery Simmons relative to the Sauce Gardner and the Quinnen Williams trades. So we'll get to all of that as the Jets are in complete sell-off mode as well. ML Rose, 7 great locations, as I mentioned. They have just fantastic happy hours. Thursday night, 2 for 1. Me and the guys go watch ball on Thursday nights. We enjoy it. Got those spicy curds. I don't know if you're a cheese curd guy, James, but
I am.
as
Yep.
spicy cheese curds at ML Rose, new menu item this fall. Absolutely fantastic. The dipping sauce is the best ranch dipping sauce in the city. 2 for 1s on Saturdays. SEC Wing Wars on Saturdays as well, so you get extra wings. They got great wing specials. And then, of course, 2 for 1s on Sunday with the brunch menu. Great for the kids as well. So make sure you check out our great friends over at ML Rose. All right. So what was your first reaction to the deadline writ large across the NFL? More trades than anybody any year since 1990, I believe, is the statistic. The Colts give up 2 number ones and a former high draft pick in Adonai Mitchell to go get Sauce Gardner, an elite corner. Quinnen Williams has traded a bunch of other moves. The Titans moved Draymond Jones for a conditional 5th that could become a 4th. In general, what was your reaction to the trade deadline in the NFL, not just the Titans?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know as a Titans fan that I'm in any position to like be feeling sorry for other fan bases, but I do genuinely feel bad for Jets fans because you have this accumulation of first round picks that you had back in 2022, basically like knock it out of the park. Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, like you build this, and obviously Quinnen Williams, you got the O line, you build this really talented young core, and then you just don't have the quarterback, so it all goes to waste. It's like, I mean, that if you have a good quarterback and like the offensive line lined up, a couple years ago, it that could legitimately have been like a Super Bowl contending team if they had like a top 12 quarterback, and instead they were one of the worst rosters or worst offenses of all time, kind of in the prime Jets defense today. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about is like now they trade all those players, they get all the first round picks. Everybody says like it could be anything, could be another boat meme from Family Guy, but like that's really what it is. It's like you got to try to just do it all over again. Best case scenario is that the exact same thing happens, and so it really just it ultimately the ultimate point is that roster building is kind of futile because if you don't have a quarterback, it just doesn't matter.
Do you think that the amount of trades that have happened, which has been encouraged by the NFL over the last few years, more and more and more and more, do you think that tells us something about finding talent in the draft? Do you think it tells us anything about roster? Like it's easier to get good players, replace good players. Does it tell you anything about that? Teams are more willing to spend on rentals. What does it tell you about sort of acquisition ability or costs or difficulty if all of a sudden we're seeing this number of trades happen at an unprecedented rate?
I don't know exactly. The most compelling theory that I've heard on trades, the increase in trades recently, Robert Mays on the Athletic Football Show, I think last year, he talked to like someone, NFL executive, like someone in a front office, and was asking him that question. And basically, the answer he got is like, it's really the generational divide between GMs where like younger GMs kind of grew up with trades being like on the front of their mind is something that you do as a general manager, and so like they're just a lot more willing to go down that avenue to build the roster, whereas a more traditional GM might be more like strict draft and develop. So that's really the best theory that I have for it.
Unless you're a creepy old man like Jerry Jones, in which case you kind of buck all the trends.
Yeah.
Quinnen Williams goes for, like Sauce Gardner was 2 firsts, as I mentioned. Quinnen Williams is traded. Where's Jeffery Simmons relative to those talents that were moved in terms of like ability, age, contract status? Like, where is he relative to some of the bigger moves that took place over the week?
That's a tough one because if I were to rank defensive tackles, like currently, I don't know exactly where I'd have them, but I'd probably have Jeffery Simmons and Quinnen Williams like 4 and 5 or 3 and 4, know, neck and neck. Simmons is definitely a better pass rusher at this point in his career. Quinnen Williams has really fallen off in that regard this year. And I guess like we can get into the whole Jeffery Simmons conversation about like, would you trade him? Typically, I would be against trading a player like Jeffery Simmons just because I think we see consistently after offensive line and offensive tackle, defensive tackle, I think is the position in the NFL where if you are below replacement level, like you can just get abused. And I mean, speaking of the Cowboys, like pick a random Cowboys game from the last 2 years and just like watch the end zone angle of it. And you're going to see Mozzie Smith getting transported from the line of scrimmage to the end zone. Like it's embarrassing stuff. And so when you have like true liabilities at both defensive tackle spots, which they would have if they traded T'Vondre Sweat and Jeffery Simmons as was being suggested, that's a recipe for just a miserable defense. So generally, like I'm against it. I think 3-tech is kind of one of, it's like, to me, left tackle, it's like a foundational position that you keep. With that being said, when has Jeffery Simmons ever put together a consistent season? And that's not even really a criticism of him as a player. It's just every single time that he starts to really put it all together, like what happened this year, having the best career year as a pass rusher, and then he gets injured. And I mean, that's kind of been the consistent story. So I would have, despite all that preamble that I said, I would have definitely sold high on Jeffery Simmons if I had the opportunity.
If he had not, I'm curious if the injury affected the negotiating conversations.
Probably.
Because a 2027 first and a 2026 second, I think it would be hard to say no to that. Like, and I'm not saying, like, if Quinnen Williams and Jeffery Simmons are about the same quality, I want to say, isn't Jeffery Simmons younger? Quinnen Williams is 27. Okay, so Williams is actually a touch younger. I don't know. Would you have traded Jeffery Simmons for a second this year and a first next year?
Yeah, I would have. A side note on that, if I was doing any of these trade negotiations, I'm asking for 2027 picks, even if it's a round later.
Sounds like that's a perfect segue into our draft conversation.
So yeah, I would take a 2027 first. I would do anything for a 2027 first.
There's a lot of good players in that draft. You don't even have to be an expert to know that. Last one here, I'll just ask you about Sauce, and that is, what does he do for the Colts?
Well, the first thing I thought of is couple weeks ago when you were asking me, so like where do the Titans attack the Colts potentially, like exploit them? And I was like, well, they aren't elite at corner. And but
now they are.
Here we are.
Two first round picks and a high draft pick receiver that's unproven, but with lots of, I don't love Mitchell. I don't think he's a great player, but I mean, he's got a lot of talent. That's a lot. That's a lot of money or a lot of assets to give up for a corner.
I think that probably the move, like just general move transaction that has had the lowest success rate league wide is trading for or signing a second contract veteran corner, like from J.C. Jackson to L'Jarius Sneed. And I'm not saying Sauce Gardner is going to fall off like that, but just as a general principle, like I'm not trading this kind of draft capital for a corner because it's.
But you would for Parsons. You would for Parsons though, right? You were a big fan of that trade. Okay. All right.
Well, corner is such a volatile position. I mean, like you look back at some of the best corners of all time, and it's like their prime is 2.5 years or something. And guys can have all pro seasons and then fall off a cliff because it's so scheme related, and it's also like the athletic margins are so slim where a 0.5% decline in your athleticism can be the difference between you being really good and burnt toast. So
I mean, Jair Alexander was the best corner in the league, got paid
yeah.
like it, and then cut 2 years later. That's why I don't love drafting him in the first round, honestly. Like, just find your guy in the second or third or fourth round a bunch of times, throw a lot of darts, and see what you can find. I don't know.
And
A bunch of Logan Ryans.
I hate the idea of like, obviously it's great that for the Colts that Daniel Jones was a hit this year, but like,
I know where you're going on this.
I mean, you're painting yourself in a corner. Like you're tying your wagon to Daniel Jones. He has to work out because you no longer have the draft capital to really like find a franchise quarterback in the draft.
I'm all for like Jones being good this year. I don't think there's any guarantee that he's this player more than this year. Like he's a good player next year. He's not great or whatever, but I think you're already starting to see, this past weekend the Colts didn't look as good. So, all right, I just wanted to add, what about the Titans in general? How do you grade the Titans front office? They trade Jamon Jones. They actually that could turn into a 4th round pick if he gets, I think, 2 sacks and the Ravens make the playoffs, which is far-fetched but possible. What do you make of you got to package, I guess, McCreary and Brownlee into this deal. I mean, I think he capitalized, Borgonzi did, on Draymond Jones's surge here in the last few games.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have expected a 4th, probably. I'm not sure I would have made that move if I was the Ravens, but yeah, I mean, I think like outside of Simmons, it's really like impossible for me to grade somebody's trade deadline if they didn't make like a ton of big moves because I don't know what offers they had on the table.
Apparently some from New England.
Yeah. Jeez. Like, I don't know if they turned down a, top 50 pick for Tavondre Sweat or something. Like, obviously they didn't, but like, I don't know if there was some crazy offer on the table that they rejected. But I mean, the public moves, like I'm good with trading Draymond Jones. He's not going to be here next year. So
if I got an offer for Tavondre Sweat that was anything above a 4th round pick, I wouldn't trade him for a 5th because that's just too early to go from a 2nd pick to a 5th round pick and admit that you failed. But if you could get a 4th round pick for Tavondre Sweat, I would have traded him.
You said a 4th round pick?
Yep. 3rd for sure I'm trading him, but I don't think this organization is very high on Tavondre Sweat long term.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I would probably do a 3rd. There still is value in like a space-eating nose tackle.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's
right.
like there's have you ever seen that meme where it's like the door like lock and there's a Cheeto in it? Like that's the thing that's holding the door closed. Like that is the Titans defensive tackles with this defense. It's like the only redeemable quality.
No, I know. It's Tavondre Sweat, a Cheeto.
Yeah.
In the door of life. All right. ML Rose, everybody go support good local businesses. They're great. It's a great place to watch games. It's a great place to watch college football, SEC football. It's a great place to watch Preds if you want to watch that and put yourself through more misery. You can watch Nashville SC, you can watch EPL, but you can watch NFL Titans games on Sundays as well with lots of drink specials and a great killer brunch menu as well. All right. So first of all, you said you really would love some 2027 draft capital. Obviously, that draft could be just ridiculous, especially at wide receiver. Absolutely loaded. I want to get into sort of who are the top-tier elite players in this draft now that we've had about 2/3 of the season to watch in the college ranks. And I want to pair that with what's going on with the Titans draft needs. So first and foremost, I want to ask you about the quarterback position. At any given moment during this draft class conversation, there's been about 12 different guys that could have been considered first-round picks or in the conversation for best quarterback. It seems like Fernando Mendoza at Indiana, formerly of Cal, a big 6'5", 240-pound kind of space. Like he can move around. He's got a big arm, goes through his progressions. It seems like he's settled in as the number 1 quarterback. Is that your opinion? And how many quarterbacks are elite? How many are top tier? How many are top 10 picks in your opinion?
So I have 3 quarterbacks in my top 10. Ty Simpson at 2 overall, Dante Moore at 7, Fernando Mendoza at 10. So yeah, as an Indiana fan, I do have Mendoza as my QB3. Really, what it comes down to, I just think that Ty Simpson is one of he's definitely the most advanced first year starting quarterback that I've ever seen at like high level college football. I mean, he has more NFL throws on 8 games of tape than a lot of quarterbacks that will get drafted have like across their entire career. And when I say NFL throws, I don't mean like a deep shot down the sideline. It's like tight window backside digs, anticipation, deep out, like stuff like that. Like really stuff that you're going to have to execute to run NFL passing concepts. I think Ty Simpson just throws with incredible anticipation. There's more on his plate at the line of scrimmage pre-snap than any quarterback in college football. I mean, he is consistently making line checks, setting the protection. I love the way that he plays the position. So he is my number 2 player.
Does he do a lot of things that you want to see Cam Ward do? I think his footwork is off the charts. Like, I think partly why he makes all those great throws is he puts himself in the right position a lot of times. Are the things that he does well, those things you just mentioned, are those the things you want to see from Cam Ward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing, if I could like osmosis transfer a skill to Cam Ward, it would be the pocket presence, because it's just so crisp from Ty Simpson. Like he senses that edge pressure. He's taken an explosive climb up into the pocket, and then he's ripping it on that same step. Like, it's just everything's so buttoned up, and it's like, if this is how developed he is, where all of his development just came from sitting on the bench, like what does the battle tested version of Ty Simpson look like? People make such a big deal about the game started, right? Which, like, historically, that is a legitimate kind of signifier for quarterback success. But if the 2 options are like a veteran 3-year starter and then a less experienced quarterback who's better than the veteran at all of the important stuff, like he's already there. So like it's not like an Anthony Richardson situation where you've got like he's got to improve this, he's got to improve this,
Well, and again, for those in Tennessee, is the guy from Tennessee who was I think the number 1 quarterback in the country, I think, coming out, 5-star player, top 30 prospect. So it's not like this guy is not without pedigree, opposite of Cam Ward to some degree, right? Like, this guy was a pedigree player coming out of high school. So Dante Moore, I've heard stories. There's been some reports that maybe he wants to come back to Oregon. You've got him at number 7. You got Mendoza at 10. Is there anybody else that creeps into your top 10 as a quarterback? Because we know these names tend to move up boards as draft day comes around. And do you think that benefits the Titans, who could be sitting at 1, 2, or 3, and maybe there's another name that somebody wants to come up and get that allows the Titans to trade back?
So my next highest graded quarterback is Brendan Sorsby out of Cincinnati at 56 overall.
Oh.
I would want him to go back to school. Like, I think that would be the best move for him, because he's
Agreed.
got, I mean, I think outside of Lenora Sellers, I was talking to my co-host about this, Brendan Sorsby probably has the most like natural athletic traits and talent in this class. His release is absurd. He can get rid of the ball from any platform, any angle. So I really like his natural talent, but the accuracy isn't there. I think he's a go back to school guy, but I know the league likes him better than I do, and he does seem like the kind of guy who could be like a quote unquote late riser.
So you're not buying any of the large group of names that were up there before: Aller, Klubnik, Nussmeier, Sellers, none of those guys.
Well, my next guy would be Josh Hoover out of TCU, who I've heard he's an underclassman, but I've heard he's pretty dead set on declaring.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm Sellers. So Sellers would be ahead of Sorsby, but I don't even like really have him on my list because I've just kind of punted, and I assume he's going back to school.
I would hope.
Well, I hope he's transferring. I don't. If I have to
Mike
watch
Shula.
the South Carolina O line again, Jesus.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. All right. Well, then let's talk about who is on the top tier that you think. Because here's the other question I guess I could ask: is where would Cam Ward rate against Ty Simpson or Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza? I would assume he's behind all 3 of them. as a prospect.
Let me pull up my board from last year. So give me a second for it to load. I definitely have a higher grade on Ty Simpson. I can tell you that right now. Let's see. So I had Cam Ward 12th overall last year with a late first round grade. That would put him at QB4 behind Fernando Mendoza. He would be 14th overall between Jeremiah Love and Spencer Fano.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to put that context out there. Now let's look at the top tier. If the Titans are picking the top 3, we know their needs are edge, receiver, corner. Could be a number of other things, but you're not taking a running back or a linebacker or a safety or any of these other positions in this place. Or even a tight end, which, I love Sadiq from Oregon, but I think he's not somebody the Titans are considering. Who is going to be graded? And you can get into 2027 if you want to with this analysis. Which players, in your opinion, are graded as high enough levels of prospects that it would be worth it for the Titans to take them if they were picking in the top 3?
Picking in the top 3. Okay, so this is taking quarterback off the table. So are we considering like positions of positional need?
I would say anybody who is graded out high enough in your opinion. Take quarterback off the board, because we're just going to say if they're at the board at 3 and Ty Simpson's still available, they're going to do everything they can to trade out of that pick, right?
So there's 4 players.
Okay.
In order, it would be Arvell Reese, in this case, edge rusher out of Ohio State, Reuben Bain, edge rusher out of Miami, Jordan Tyson, receiver out of Arizona State, who is injured and has had extensive injury history. So
2 years in a row.
Yeah. So he's 4 on my board, but that's not including medicals. Carnell Tate is my 5th ranked player. Those are basically like a 7 and above on my grading scale. Those are the guys with 7 up, and that's what I would say are like blue chip prospects. I mean, still, honestly, like, I don't love taking any of those guys in the top 5 in like just
in general,
a normal year,
So
but
none of those guys compare to
I guarantee
Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter.
So yeah, they would both be the number 1 player in the class.
Okay, so trade for 2027 draft capital is what you're saying. If the Titans are at 3, trade back to 10 and take a bunch of picks next year.
So I'm writing a mock draft right now. I had the Titans trade with the Rams. They gave 2 for 11, 27, a 2027 third, and a 2028 second. And that's I went back to like draft trade like history.
The Rams have 2 first-round picks this year?
Yeah, because the Falcons.
So the Rams would be a really good target to go make a move with in this year's draft. Okay, so what about Peter Woods at Clemson? You have him as a kind of your number 1 defensive lineman. It's not a position that the Titans needed, but had they traded Simmons, or if they do trade Sweat in the offseason, this could lead them. He could be an option there. A little bit more of I guess he's more of a Simmons type than he is, a Sweat type. Is that a guy that you're interested in? Is he the next tier of prospect regardless of position?
Yeah, he's my 6th ranked player. It's heading into the year, he was my number 1 player overall. It's been a disappointing year for him. Not bad. It's just not high impact to the extent that it really needs to be to justify a top 10 pick. Like I said though, I guarantee you 10 players are going to go in the top 10 this year. So so they got to take somebody. So it's probably going to happen. But yeah, I think that with Peter Woods, like if you watched his tape in reverse chronological order, like you started
his freshman year,
you started now and then went back to his freshman year, you'd be like, man, he's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I know. He was an unbelievable player his freshman year. He was incredible. Yeah. You've got Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. He's a little bit undersized for being a top 10 prospect on the board, but a lot of that's relative to the class, of course. So you've got a wide receiver there. That's 3 wide receivers in the top 10. You've got Mansour Delane, the guy we've talked a lot about, tons of starting experience. I don't think he's an elite corner, but I think he's a guy who's going to have a really good career in the NFL for a long time. Like, I think he's just going to be a starting player for like 8 or 9 or 10 years. May never be the best corner on in the NFL.
I comped him to Shaq Griffin.
I think that's good. And then you've got Mendoza at 10. So is there anybody else that you think the Titans should consider if they are picking in the top 10? You've got 3 receivers, you've got a corner, and you've got 2 edge players. Those are the needs there. So in theory, you could say, hey, that kind of lines up with what the Titans need in the top of this draft, but you don't want to take them in the top 3 or 4.
Well, no, I'm fine. I mean, like, we got to live in the real world. Like, once the draft starts, so it's like, these are the players that are available. I'm fine.
Sure.
Like, taking them in the top 5. I just mean kind of in a vacuum. It's like, man, we have a top 5 pick, and like, I don't know. I would like to come away with Myles Garrett or like, one of those.
But if you can't, I mean, that's the question: is where's the drop off in talent? Do you want to be in the top 8?
Yeah,
do you want to be in the top 10? Where do you want to be?
To me, the drop off is at like 5.
Okay. Where's the next tier then?
Because
I want him to do what you did. I want him to go back to 11.
So what I did, and I think this is one of my ideal, like, realistic outcomes. Traded down to 11, where I took David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Again, I don't love taking a DPR at 11. I actually hate it. But like, he's an elite pass rusher. What he does at a high level, you kind of know what you're getting. I just don't expect him to be a full-time player, but because the Titans need pass rushing juice so desperately, I still think, and like, David Bailey's going to go top 20 at least.
Yep.
So yeah, I took David Bailey at 11, and then come back at 27 with Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M.
We don't need a punt returner though.
Well, he's a kick returner.
No, I know.
Yeah.
We don't need that either. It's the one position the Titans have.
And then 33, I took Avion Terrell.
That is flipping a roster though. I mean, if you have Bailey, Concepcion, and you have a starting corner, a starting receiver, and a starting pass rusher, that is flipping your roster in one draft. So, and like you said, you would add a bunch of capital in 27 as well. And there's no way that this team is, all of a sudden like the Commanders last year, where they go from 2 to 29 in the draft. They're not going to do that. So they should have another solid pick in 27 as well.
The other thing that I kind of realized, and I got to get out of here in a couple minutes, but going through and doing a mock draft is like, just the exercise kind of lays out clearly how the board is going to, develop. And the one thing I notice is that just at all times, if I need somebody to trade up for a quarterback, like, there are options. There are teams that need quarterbacks and are like within striking distance. So it's probably too like simplistic to say this, but I think if they aren't able to really gain some draft capital, it would be kind of a mismanagement of the situation.
I don't disagree, especially because the receiving class looks so healthy between picks like 20 and 50.
Yeah.
Like right now, it could change as the year goes along, but right now it looks like a really deep group of receivers from like 20 to 50. It looks like there's some good linebackers, and you can get some middle linebackers in there. You can get some corners in there. There's plenty of offensive linemen. Not that that's what they're looking at, but it does feel like last year, it felt like there was more depth between 20 and 75. It does feel like you want a bunch of top 50 picks here. If you can get into that 20 to 50 range with some extra picks, it feels like that's where some real value is, and you can get a starting corner and a starting receiver along with a top 10 pass rusher potentially. So the names, I was surprised I didn't see. We talked about Keldrick Falk last week out of Auburn. It sounds like he's a little bit more late first round in your opinion. So there you go on that. What else you got? Anything else? Where can people find all your draft stuff, by the way?
Yeah, YouTube at James Foster, Twitter at No Flags Film, and then writing the mock draft for Wide Left Football right now.
And make sure you check out his film breakdowns of Cam Ward and your Tennessee Titans on the 440 Sports YouTube page, where you're watching this show right now. If you're listening, rate, review, and subscribe. 5 stars only, please. We do appreciate it. If you do not give us 5 stars, you are a Hater. ML Rose, everybody, make sure you check that out. Enjoy the bye week, not having to watch the team. That is James Foster. Make sure you read all my draft updates and reports on paulkarski.com. I think that's everything. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. For James, I'm Braden. We will talk to you next week.